So you're starting a new smart home, whether it's for the first time or just taking what you have and starting again from scratch. Let me break down where you should put your attention and money for setting up a new Apple home. If you're new here, I'm Eric Welander. I've been an app developer on Apple platforms since 2011 and building out my smart home here on YouTube since 2018. So if you're into Apple or smart home tech, consider subscribing. And thanks to Dream and the DreamBot S10 Pro Ultra Vacuum for sponsoring this video. More on them in a minute. Now, I could make a whole video on why you should choose Apple Home as your smart home platform, but it really boils down to the ecosystem. If you have a lot of Apple devices in your home, then Apple Home is the easiest way to control your smart home. I recently made a video with 23 different ways you can control your Apple smart home, and thanks to you guys in the comments, I think we're now at 25 and counting total ways. And I think I have a nice framework to simplify how you should think about this, but having a good robot vacuum is an important part of any smart home, and that's why I chose Dream and the DreamBot L10s Pro Ultra to sponsor this video. This vacuum is packed with all the latest features, including AI obstacle avoidance, LiDAR, 7,000 pascals of suction, and some of the best floor mopping I've seen. The mop uses a cleaning solution from Dream combined with water on mops that extend out to get into the corners and hard to reach areas. You can even set it to intelligently mop areas multiple times if it senses extra dirt while cleaning. Not only that, but it senses the type of floor and will mop wood and tile differently. The mops automatically lift up to 10.5 millimeters when the robot vacuums your carpets as well. This is where the vacuum also turns up to a higher suction power to get the dirt out of your carpets and rugs. Back to the base station, the mops are cleaned with 136°F hot water while the vacuum empties into the dustbin. The basin where the mops are washed can also be removed periodically for easy cleaning. If you're interested in the DreamBot L10s Pro Ultra or any of Dream's other vacuums, check out the link in the description. Thanks again to Dream for keeping my floors clean and supporting my channel by sponsoring this video. And while I do think robot vacuums are an important thing to consider at any stage of your smart home, beyond that, there are really three major categories that you should look at. First is climate, like temperature control. Second is lighting. And third is security. Now, I think you should pick one of these categories depending on your needs and priorities, so your initial spending and attention can go the farthest. And I think this is true even if you basically have unlimited money. Even though you could just buy all these things all at once, doing it in phases over time helps you understand the tech that's going in your home and how to take the best advantage of it for you. Trust me, as someone who gets avalanches of smart home products all the time to review and check out, it can be difficult to keep up with new products, and you often end up with a lot of wasted potential if you're not able to invest the time in figuring out how to get the most out of what you've purchased. Now, I want to go into each of these areas of focus and what are some priorities you should have in those areas. But before any of that, if you're thinking about this as more than just a couple devices, you want to get an Apple Home Hub, which will serve as the brains of your smart home. And the correct answer for this right now, and probably on into the future, is the latest model, highest end Apple TV. And ideally, this is hardwired into your home network with Ethernet. HomePods are also great as speakers around your home, but they lack the power of an Apple TV to really be good brains of your smart home once it gets bigger. Especially if you pick security as your priority area, as we'll get into in a minute, because you might want to use Apple's HomeKit Secure Video Surveillance, which benefits from a more powerful Home Hub to do some of that video processing. Now, first, let's start with climate. This might sound like a boring option between the three, but heating and cooling your home can often be the most energy-intensive thing in your home, and therefore the most expensive part of running your home. And making this smart could be a great place to start if you're interested in saving money or just saving energy for the planet. Now, an obvious first step here would be to get a smart thermostat, either a Google Nest thermostat that supports Matter, like their 4th generation learning thermostat, or the ecobee Smart Thermostat Premium. Both are great and both have cult followings online. I've tried both and you honestly can't go wrong with either one. And check with your local utility companies for potential rebates and discounts on thermostats as well. Even if your home already has an older smart thermostat, you might still be eligible for a discount on a new one. From there, you should look at smart plugs to control fans. And if you live in Europe with radiators, I've heard good things about Eve Thermo as a way to control those. Now, from there, I'd consider getting an Eve Weather. This connects to your home with Matter over Thread, and it can be used for automations like running the fans with your smart plugs inside your home at 2 p.m. in the afternoon if the outdoor temperature is above 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, you can also do similar things to this in the Home app based on Home app shortcuts that can get the weather forecast for your area, but that isn't the temperature local to that specific part of your property. Future Eric here, and another thing to add for climate are smart shades. These are my Lutron Serena shades, which are at the high end of the market. There's also Smart Wings and Eve Motion blinds, which are a little bit less expensive. But either way, opening and closing blinds during the day can either block out or let in the sun, which can play a big role in heating or cooling off your home. And it's super fun to just be able to say, hey Siri, close the blinds. And they close. Now, moving on to lighting, this one really benefits from focusing on a specific room or area of your home first. There's something really magical about having all the lights in a particular room be smart, because you can set various levels of scenes from things that are dim accent lighting all the way up to fully bright lights to make it as bright as possible. And if you're buying or going to own a home in North America, I strongly recommend Lutron Caseta. And this can be a great thing to install early on in your purchase or construction, because you might have a contractor coming out for something else, and you could potentially add installing a few smart switches to the scope of their work. And they can wire them into your walls and they work as light switches, and then you can add them to your smart home later. Now, if you don't live in North America or you just want some alternative to Lutron, Aqara switches are another great option to consider. They have some configurations as well that Lutron doesn't here in North America, like dual paddle options, meaning a single gang that has 2 switches on it. Aqara switches are also much cheaper, and they're sold across more countries with more international variants of light switches. Now, if you rent your place or you just think tearing out the light switches in your wall sounds a little too scary, then smart bulbs are the way to go. Now, I still like Philips Hue here. Well, there are lots of new Matter light bulbs for the standard A19 size. Philips Hue really has a lot of different types of non-standard smart bulbs to fit in all those other light bulb spots in your home. And be sure you get a Philips Hue bridge or hub along with your lights, because that's critical for connecting these lights to your Apple Home, as well as down the road maybe getting them to work with Matter. Another thing you'll want to get to go along with Philips Hue lights is the Lutron Aurora dimmer. Yes, I know Lutron also makes the Caseta light switches, but they make this Aurora dimmer controller specifically for Philips Hue lights. And it can go on top of a traditional toggle switch, as well as with a mount that goes straight on your wall anywhere you want. And the increased cost you pay for the individual Philips Hue light bulbs, as well as things like the Philips Hue bridge, or on the other hand, the Lutron Caseta light switches, it's all going towards more reliable products that are going to give you better experiences over time than maybe the bottom of the barrel cheapest option. Now, it's also great to mix and match a smart switch option with something like Philips Hue smart bulbs. I just don't recommend doing that in the same room. I find it really nice and clean to have a particular room be a Philips Hue room in my home, and then another room be controlled entirely by smart switches. But there's nothing saying you can't break that rule in a case where you think it makes sense. Now, let's say you pick security as your first area of priority. Well, of course, security systems are probably what come to mind here, but I will get into those in a minute because there's a bunch of nuances there. And the main thing to start off with here is there have never been more smart lock options. And well, we could also make an entire video on smart locks to buy and buyer's guides there. You should really look out for one that supports Apple's home key technology. The basic non-ultra wideband version of that just means you can tap your iPhone or Apple Watch to the front door and then it will unlock it for you, which is really convenient and available across a bunch of different models from a bunch of different manufacturers at this point. The next thing for security is something you might not have thought of, and that's a door and window sensor in Apple Home. I have an Eve door and window sensor on my kid's bedroom door, and I get push notifications from the Apple Home app whenever I'm home and this door is opened or closed at night. And this is a great feature to use with either interior doors or cabinets that you want to know when they've been opened. Now, of course, with security comes the potential of cameras, and getting something pointed at your driveway or your front entrance to your home makes a lot of difference. And the camera space right now is very fast moving with a lot of new options coming to the market, especially in the outdoor space. But I think the cheapest and easiest setup here could just be an indoor HomeKit secure video camera pointed to the outside, like your front yard or driveway, through a window. This won't pick up the noise, but something like a Topo C125 is easily half the cost of many outdoor options from Eve, Aqara, or Eufy, or others. Of course, a smart doorbell is another place to put this kind of camera as well. Now, moving to your garage, you can get a smart garage door controller. And unfortunately, even if you have a newer garage in your home that's quote unquote smart, the greedy garage door companies like MyQ might not want it talking to your smart home. And that's why you need to use some other kind of garage door controller in addition, like the Tailwind garage door controller I recently reviewed on my channel. There are also similar products from Maris and soon from Aqara. Most importantly here, having something that integrates with Apple Home is really helpful, especially because it makes it easy to pull up your garage door right inside CarPlay, provided you have a car that supports Apple CarPlay. Now back to cameras. Putting a camera in your garage is also very handy to check on the status of your garage door, as well as just record of vehicles coming and going. And depending on the level of insulation in your garage and the climate you live in, you could probably get away with an indoor camera here as well. Now, back to that whole security system thing. If you want one that ties into your Apple Home, you really have two options right now. There's the Abode IOTA system, as well as doing something like the Aqara Hub as a DIY system without professional monitoring. Now, security systems is really a topic for an entire other series of videos, and I'll definitely be talking more about that in the future. But if you want the short answer now, I would say look at the Abode IOTA system, but that's glossing over a lot of details and nuances you might want to consider as well. So I think if your priority is security, there's a whole lot you can do outside of a security system that's going to give you a lot of benefits first, and maybe think about the security system as something you'd add down the road, unless you feel that having a security system is essential for your setup early on. Having it tied into your Apple Home gives you a bunch of advantages of easier ways to control it, but you could also go the route of another option that doesn't integrate with Apple Home, just knowing that you're sort of foregoing some of that automation potential, while maybe getting a security system that is otherwise better tailored to what you want. Now, of the Home Hub and all these three options, you might be surprised that I didn't mention anything about your Wi-Fi network. And I still think having a strong Wi-Fi network, whether it's anything from a basic mesh system all the way up to a fancy Ubiquiti Unify system and anything in between, that's essential for your smart home. But so many Wi-Fi routers these days have multiple radios and support a lot of the newer standards that if you have anything relatively recent, I don't think it's a huge priority right away at first. As your smart home grows and you get more devices, particularly those that use Wi-Fi, it is something to consider, especially if you're seeing performance issues in your smart home. But I think getting started, there's a lot of other places that are better to spend your time and effort than just getting a nice Wi-Fi network set up. Now, I'd love to hear in the comments below if you're starting a new smart home and which area you'd like to focus on. And also thanks to Dream for sponsoring today's video. You can check out the links for them in the description. There's nothing more convenient than just having your floors not only vacuumed, but also mopped for you. Thanks again so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.